This is a Triple J podcast.
If you find yourself always running out of conditioner before shampoo, even though you buy them at the same time, Dr. Karl gives us some clues about why. On today's episode of Science with Dr. Karl, we also discuss the connection between smell and memory, chat about the existence of zombie stars, and whether that's something we should be concerned about. I'm Jaimee Taylor-Nielsen, filling in for Lucy Smith. Let's do it. Dr. Karl, how's your week?
Ever so peachy keen. How's your week?
It's been all right. Look, I've been reading some things about space. And I just want to know if we should be concerned or not. This is the latest headline I've read. Extreme zombie star capable of ripping human atoms apart is shooting through the Milky Way and nobody knows where it came from. I wanted to get your take on this because that headline, it's not like the most calming thing you've ever read, is it?
Okay, so looking at this article, it says it's moving at thousands of kilometres a second. So almost certainly, so in our galaxy, the Milky Way, very old, about 11 billion years old. Okay. The age of the universe is 13.88. And on average, the stars orbit calmly in a kind of circular pattern, around the centre of the galaxy at around 220 kilometres a second, and this is moving 11,000 kilometres a second. So almost certainly this star got involved in some sort of near miss. No, actually, a close miss. It actually missed. It came close to another star and then got catapulted past. It might have actually come from the centre of the galaxy, going in a swing bypass the big black hole there. We don't know. It's a neutron star, so it's maybe 2 or 3 times the mass of our sun, but maybe 20 kilometres across.
Whoa.
So if it was sort of on the ground somewhere over there 20 kilometres away and you were lying on the ground with your feet pointing towards it and your head at the other end, there would be a significant difference in the gravitational field between your head and your feet. If you were half the distance of the moon away, your credit card would be wiped. It's a magnetar, right? I know this is a thing to worry about. The magnetic stripes would be wiped on your credit card. They've got intense magnetic fields, so this is a neutron star, but a magnetic one called a magnetar. If you were 1,000 kilometres away, the gravitational field difference between your feet and your head would be so great that you would be torn apart.
Okay.
So it's a good thing to avoid those.
Yeah.
Okay, so is it a danger of coming near us? No. But there is a bit of a worry because we know, because the Milky Way is so old, that there should be, having gone through their life cycle, about 1 billion black holes, and we've discovered 3 dozen. And where are the other billion minus 3 dozen? We don't know.
Mysterious.
Is one heading for us? Possible, but unlikely, kind of on a par with the Pacific Ocean freezing over tomorrow. Almost certainly won't happen.
Okay, well, thank you. That's made me feel better, sort of.
We're safe for a while.
Until one of the black holes rocks up, basically.
We wouldn't have much warning, but almost certainly it'd just go straight through and out the other side of the sun.
Well, at least we wouldn't have much warning. You're hanging with me, Jaimee Taylor-Nielsen and Dr. Karl for Science Hour here on Triple J Mornings. 0439 757 555. Get your science questions in. And we're going to go now to Brittany in Queensland. Brittany, you've got a question for Dr. Karl.
Hi, doctors. Yes, I do. My question is, how sustainable is coral collecting on the Great Barrier Reef, given the Reef Authority's just announced its report on the climate impact to coral reefs, and it doesn't look fantastic.
It's terrible. So with global warming is real. And the reason that we're alive today is that 93% of the heat trapped by global warming goes into the ocean, which is good for us because otherwise the air temperature would be 60 degrees C and we'd all be dead. But on the other hand, it's bad for the ocean. And so there's a report just the other day saying that 87% of the coral reefs around the world have been affected, and not well but badly, have been affected badly by global warming. So getting on to the concept of coral collecting, okay, the Great Barrier Reef is a couple of thousand kilometres long, and if you go along and you collect a pretty piece of coral the size of your fist, it won't make any difference to the whole 2,000 kilometre length of it. But if everybody does it, there's a problem there. So actually going to harvest the coral, walking across there, you can disturb the local ecosystems and you can potentially harm the delicate balance. And then if you remove the corals, you reduce the biodiversity, but that's only one little thing the size of your fist. if you're going to do coral collecting, it has to be carefully managed to make it sustainable. So you have to limit the quantities and make sure that you're only collecting from certain areas. Like there are certain national parks around the world where people come in groups and they're managed by the rangers, and they come through in groups and they don't damage it. So you can do that. And also you have to avoid the species that are endangered or slow growing, which I would not have any idea of, and neither would most people, but a coral scientist would. So it would be okay under supervision, but the good news is that we can fix global warming really easily. It's just 6 words: keep fossil carbon in the ground. So we can fix it. I hope that's optimistic for you, Dr. Brittany.
Thanks, Brittany.
Thank you. Can I have a follow-up question?
Yeah.
Yeah?
When I say coral collecting, I guess I mean more specifically commercial. So I know that there are businesses who have permits through the government to collect X amount of tonnes of coral per year, and then they export them to an international market. So I know that still happens, but I guess, are there updated procedures and sort of what's keeping them in check? And is it still a good time to be collecting coral if the reef health is declining?
Definitely don't know, but I'd need to have somebody talk about that. I do know that what we're doing with the native forests in Australia is just so wrong. I would hope that the coral collecting commercially would be different. If there's an expert on that field, could you please ring? What's the magic number, Dr. Jaimee, that people should ring?
0439 757 555. Brittany, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Brittany, for opening up that can of worms.
Davina calling from Ballou, Perth. Davina, what's your question for Dr. Karl?
Good morning, doctors. My question is, how does estrogen gel work on hormone replacement therapy for us trans women?
Okay, so if you were to take it orally, it might make it through the stomach, and then it would rise quickly, then drop down again. So if you have it as a gel that you apply to the skin, it's absorbed at a constant rate over a longer period of time. So you don't get that sudden peak and then the drop, and it goes via the epidermis into the underlying blood vessels, and then it travels through your whole body. And I'm still reading an amazing article from the Scientific American about 3 days ago, which is that estrogen and testosterone and all those other sex hormones actually have major effects in the brain, and they were beginning to find out where, which we didn't know a couple of years ago. So there's a whole extra big thing there. But it can have the desired effects, such as the feminization, the mood regulation, etc., etc. The estrogen is a fat-soluble chemical rather than water-soluble, so it's stored in fatty tissue, but generally the amount there is low, and it just acts as a reservoir that can slowly release the estrogen back into circulation when the blood level drops. And the main goal of having it on the skin as a gel is to maintain a stable hormone level in your blood, not to build up these stores in your fat. And they often have alcohol in the gel because the gel is not fat-soluble, but it will dissolve in alcohol, so that helps carry it through. And they do tend to dry up quickly, though, being alcohol.
Thanks so much, Davina.
Thank you, Dr. Davina.
Thank you.
Have a lovely day. 0439 757 555. Get your questions in for Dr. Karl. Simon and Meange in Brisbane. Simon, what's your question?
Good morning, doctors. How are you?
Very well, thank
you,
Dr.
well?
Simon.
Good, thank you. Big Bang. When we talk about it being a singular event, could another Big Bang event have occurred or outside of our known visible universe and be hurtling towards us as we are hurtling outwards?
Yes. So firstly, the Big Bang didn't happen at one particular spot, but happened everywhere in the universe at the same time. And then all of that universe started spreading. And there are some models of cosmology that theoretically suggest the possibility that there could be another universe where another Big Bang could have happened in a region of space beyond our observable horizon. Our observable horizon is the rim of a sphere 92 billion light years across, or 46 billion light years away, roughly. There could be another Big Bang outside our observable universe, but it would be disconnected from it. The astronomers use the word causally, CAUSALLY, disconnected, which means we'd never see it or be affected by it.
We're going to go to Levi calling from Maitland. Levi, what's your science question?
Good morning, doctors.
Good
Good
morning.
Dr. Levi.
Why do mosquitoes bite certain people? Because I get bit and my little sister get bit, but my older sister doesn't get bit.
So the first thing is it's the female mosquitoes that come to attack you, and what they're after is the protein in your blood so they can make babies. Nothing personal, it's just evolution at work. Secondly, the first thing that they use to try and find you is carbon dioxide, because they're going to get blood from an animal that breathes carbon dioxide. So they'll go through, if there's a lot of carbon dioxide, like from a cow, which weighs more than you do, they'll go for that, and a bigger person in general more than a smaller person. And when the scientists want to go and get certain insects like mosquitoes in the field, they go out with a bucket of dry ice, which is solid carbon dioxide, and the mozzies come from everywhere. But then on top of that, there are specific chemicals in the skin and sweat, and we've started to find those chemicals. And if I looked them up, I could give you the bunch of names which would be meaningless to both of us, but the trouble is that you and your sister unfortunately put out those chemicals, and you are attractive to them. They are more attracted to heat, so if you're a bigger person, they'll be attracted more to you. If you wear dark clothing, that helps. If you've got blood type O, they might come for you or not. Otherwise, just use the DEET stuff. But if it doesn't bother you too much, don't worry about it. Deepest sympathy, I'm sorry.
Levi, thank you
Sorry,
for your
Dr.
question.
Levi.
Thank you.
It's not personal, Levi.
It's not personal. They just want to have babies. It's the evolution of work. It's part of the grand picture.
We're on Science Hour here on Triple J with Dr. Karl. And Joe in Canberra. Joe in Canberra, you've got a question that I would also like the answer to. Go for it, Joe.
Hi, doctors. Yes, thank you so much for having me. My question is, if I buy a 500ml bottle of shampoo and a 500ml bottle of conditioner, and I use approximately the same amount per wash, why do I always finish the conditioner first and I'm left with shampoo? It's so annoying, because then I have to buy another bottle of conditioner and I've got a little bit of shampoo, and I just want to buy them at the same
Does
time.
it happen to you?
Yeah, it happens to me all the time. Because, yes, in theory, Joe, right? Like you're using both exactly the same amount.
You're using the same amount.
And
so
yet
why
there's
do I
always
run
one.
Why do I run out of conditioner before I run out of shampoo?
When I had hair down to my buttocks, I used to find exactly the same thing when I was a drug-crazed hippie. And I put it down to, I was thinking about it at the time, is that in general, conditioners are thicker in their feel and more viscous. So to get the same sort of feel, you're getting as much out, you tend to squirt out just a little bit more. And I then thought about exploring this further, but I never did because there was too much going on. So I'm putting it down to the fact that it's thicker and you got to squirt a bit more to get the same sort of feel. Plus there's also the where you apply it, because really what you're after is that wonderful volumizing effect, a word I didn't know existed until my daughter taught me it.
Volumizing.
Volumizing.
Oh, Dr. Karl, welcome to the world of hair care.
Yeah, it's big, man.
Okay, but actually I'm with you on this, because if the conditioner's heaps thicker in consistency, what could look like the same amount in your hand could potentially not actually be the same volume as like a thinner, runnier consistency in the shampoo.
And things are messy in the shower. There's hot water. There's mist everything. You're trying to stay awake. You're not trying to fall over. All that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's all I got for you. I'm
do
sorry.
they weigh the same amount then in my hand? Because they're different consistencies. Would they if I buy 500 mils and I used 100 mils of shampoo and then 100 mils of conditioner? Is that what are they going to look at different amounts of weight?
In this case, you have to use the kitchen scales. And I read an article about how I've been making coffee wrongly and I should be using 15 grams rather than 25 as I've been using. So I would recommend going to the kitchen scales.
Some further research is required.
And then weighing the bottles and then work out. And could you ring us back next week and let us know if the conditioner is denser and has more mass for the same volume?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Joe in Canberra.
Joe.
And on 0439 757 555, Simon has said, one word, lather. Conditioner doesn't lather up as well.
Oh, so you then subconsciously squirt a bit more to make it lather.
Maybe.
But what about, is there a syndrome where you actually apply it more to certain parts of the hair, like to the roots, and rub it in?
No, you're supposed to use it. You're supposed to use it less on the roots, more on the ends. Again, further research required here on the Science Hour on Triple J. Tom, how are you going, Tom? What's your question for Dr.
Welcome.
Karl?
Morning, doctors. How you going?
Pretty keen.
Well,
Hello. I was just wondering, so my son is nearly 2 and we were sitting at the table the other day and I can wink perfectly with absolutely zero thought, but then my partner, who is like a year younger than me, she can't wink. So I was just wondering, is it like a learned behaviour, like a learned thing, or is it you can or you simply can't do it?
A mixture of both. So winking involves a muscle called the orbicularis oculi. It's a circular muscle, and you want to use it on one side of your face but not the other. And to some degree, people are different in what they can do natively, but also to some degree, people can be trained. And once again, going back to my daughter, Lola again, her grandfather was able to move his ear, and so she just concentrated really hard and had a camera pointed at her ear. And then after 3/4 of an hour of hard work, she was finally able, for the first time in her life, to move her ears. Now, separately from that, I was just reading last week that people who can move their ears, the external ear, when they're listening to a very quiet noise, or if they're in a noisy environment, without even knowing it, they will activate that muscle and pivot the ear slightly, which I had no idea of.
Wow.
So the answer is it's a mixture of both. And so if you train up, you can do it. You might not be as good as somebody who does it natively, but you can be definitely better than you were.
So practice winking, everyone.
Practice
Thank you so much, Tom.
Thank you, Dr. Tom.
This is the Science Hour on Triple J. We're with Dr. Karl here on mornings and me, Jaimee Taylor-Nielsen. Kyle, you've got a question about memory. Go for it, Kyle.
Yeah, so good morning, doctors.
Dr.
Good
Karl,
morning,
welcome.
Dr. Kyle.
So my question is about, memory's linked to our sense of smell. Is that right?
Yes and no, but go on.
Do animals with a better sense of smell, like dogs, have a better sense of memory?
Now, why do you say that memory is linked to your sense of smell?
Well, to be honest, I heard it in Breaking Bad.
It's a peer-reviewed journal. I go with it.
And Bryan Cranston as well says that our sense of memory is linked to our olfactory nervous system.
Or kind of the other way around. Every living creature, from humans down to bacteria, and I'm sorry for the patriarchal hierarchical thing implying that bacteria are not as advanced as us, but even bacteria have a sense of smell in the sense that they can know what chemicals are in the environment and either go towards them to eat them or run away from them if they're poisonous. And so if you're sensing a chemical that's not on your skin or not on you, you are kind of smelling it. And it's there in our brains, in the brainstem. And so Marcel Proust writes about it in his Days of Remembrance, Future Past thing, where he talks about when he eats a Madeleine cake, it brings back the memory of being in the village with his aunt, and they'd walk down the shop and eat the Madeleine cake. And then as he eats and smells the Madeleine cake, suddenly it's like a film set and it just rises up and he can smell it. So the sense of smell is very powerful. So maybe that's what they meant in Breaking Bad. Secondly, dogs have got a much better sense of smell than us, because instead of having 5 square centimetres of surface area of a landing area to do smell with, they've got 250. It's all folded up in the top of their nose. It's 50 times bigger. Secondly, they can breathe in several times a second to bring fresh air towards them, where we can only do it 2 times a second. If we're trying really hard, I'll just do it now. That was as fast as I can go. A dog can go faster. Thirdly, we breathe in through our nostrils and we breathe out, so our outgoing air dilutes the incoming smell.
Oh, interesting.
But if you look at a dog, they've got horizontal slits. So it comes in through the nose and out through the side. So all of those give them a far superior sense of smell. So that then means that they've got this sense of smell, and they walk into the room that is empty and they said, I think Jaimee was sitting in that chair there and they're right. So because they've got such an advanced sense of smell compared to us, they also then have better memory. But then having a really advanced sense of smell doesn't necessarily make you a better memory, but if you do have a good sense of smell, you could become a perfumier in France.
Very true.
Yes.
My dog once saw a cat on a random street that we go near, on a walk every now and then. One cat over 2 years ago, every single time we walked down that street, he loses his mind. Is that smell or memory or both?
I reckon they've been buried together. Was this a particularly aggressive cat that tried to attack him?
No,
or
he
something?
just really hates cats.
Oh, we need to have a sit down here and a bit of kumbaya and a bit of love, because we all got to live on a world together, man.
Yeah.
We're living together, man. Love, man.
Dog therapy on Science Hour with Dr. Karl. Thank you so much, Kyle. It's mornings. You're hanging with me, Jaimee Taylor-Nielsen, and Dr. Karl. It is Science Hour. And I just wanted to ask a follow-up question because we got a text. Claire from Canberra, we're talking about winking and how some people can wink, some people can't. Claire has somewhere in the middle. With using the muscle on one side of your face to wink, is that why some people like me can only wink with one eye?
We are different from each side of our body to the other. There's a part of the DNA called the homeo box, HOMEO, and then boxes in box. And it is a map for your body. And most of your body is an image of the other side. You know, right arm, left arm, they should all be the same. There are a few asymmetries, like your heart and your liver and your spleen. But basically, the map describes what should happen on the left and right sides, and it doesn't get printed the same way. The map is there, but it doesn't get carried out perfectly. And in terms of standards of what we call beauty, which is a variable thing from society to society, across most societies, symmetry, in other words, being the same on the left and the right sides, is often a part, but not everything, in this thing that we call beauty. So we are different from one side of the body to the other. And if you go looking, you'll find all sorts of differences. So in my particular case, in my shoulder, I have a bunch of bone. There's the acromion, and the right tip has not fused. It never fused since childbirth. And that's just one of the slight differences, which then leads to differences in muscle strength. So you'll find these little things through your body. So, but if you train, you might be able to get the other side to work. I don't know. There might be. YouTube is the guide in this case for videos on how to do everything.
Keep practicing, Claire.
And practice.
Hey, we've got Vicky calling
Dr.
from the
Vicky.
Gold Coast. Vicky, what's your question?
So if we get back to net zero, how long would it take for the ocean temperature to return?
We can get back to net zero relatively quickly. We can do it within 10 years for most of it. But we're looking at times of decades to centuries. So at the moment, we're pumping out about 37 billion tonnes of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and we don't have to. And the trees can absorb about 6 billion tonnes. So when we go to net zero, the carbon dioxide level is going to start dropping. It's not going to stay where it is, it's going to start dropping. But there's such a huge amount of thermal lag in the ocean. So if you just look at air compared to water, a cubic metre of air, 1.25 kilograms. Cubic metre of water, 1,000 kilograms.
Wow,
so there's a thermal lag in the system. But the point is we could get to pretty close to net zero within 10 years if we tried really hard. And we should, because it's already costing us $2 trillion a year. And we're having weird side effects from global warming, such as increasing space junk. And you're thinking, what's the connection? There will be a TikTok coming out shortly. I'm trying to think of a good name for it. I'm doing a series, 100 Days of Climate Change with I don't know what to call it. I need a
100
fancy
days of
name.
climate change. Oh, if you've got a suggestion for Dr. Karl, what you should call this segment, 0439 757 555.
So I'll be releasing them at one a day.
Yeah.
And the good news is we can do it. The only thing stopping us are the politicians who have been, putting it delicately, influenced by the fossil fuel companies.
Yeah, totally.
It's Science Hour on Triple J. Thank you so much, Vicky.
Thank you, Dr. Vicky.
Zach in Sydney, what's your question?
Hey, doctors. I was just wondering if our brains can actually multitask.
Yes and no. And I came across this because I like aeroplanes and stuff, I managed to get into the traffic control towers at both Bankstown and Sydney Airport and just watch what they were doing.
Did you really?
Oh, my God, it was such an education.
That's so cool.
So those people have to have three properties. The first one is they have to be able to multitask because there's this aluminium rail going around, there's all these operators, and there's a boss standing around doing nothing, right? And then little bits of blocks of wood with a bit of paper on it saying Boeing 767 flight such and such, whatever it is, they get shuttled from one person to the other, and they handle it at, say, from 2,000 kilometres away to 100 kilometres away, from 100 kilometres away to landing, and then on the ground. It's roughly something like that. So you've got to be able to multitask and handle a few airplanes at a time. By the way, the thing that you do not want is what they delicately call aluminium rain. Airplanes are made of aluminium, and when they run into each other, you get a rain of little particles of aluminium. You do not want aluminium rain. Aluminium rain is bad. You do not want planes running into each other. So the first property that the air traffic controllers have to have is the ability to multitask, and about 0.5% of people can do that. The second property that they have to have is 3D geometry. There's an aeroplane up here and there's another one lower, but it's further away. And will they cross and hit each other? No, they won't. But the third property is the hardest one of all. And that's to admit, and most of us don't have this, when we don't know, when we're wrong. And I actually saw this happen. So I was just standing back there doing nothing with the administrator, and she's saying, just stay with me and do nothing. And we did nothing for about 40 minutes, and we were still doing nothing and watching it all going on. And then suddenly one of the operators said, Shirley, can you give us a hand? Which is talk for, I've got no idea what's going on, help. And Shirley said, yeah. And she went across and they fixed it. And we didn't have aluminium rain.
Oh, good.
Yeah. But that's interesting that she said the hardest property is the ability to know when you're out of your depth and to immediately call for help.
Oh, it's a show of strength too. I don't know is a great answer a lot of the time. Hey, thank you so much, Zach. 0439 757 555. We're on Science Hour with Dr. Karl. Bianca, calling from Canberra. What's your question?
Hey, doctors. How are you?
Pretty
Doing
good, Dr.
well.
Bianca. Welcome.
Good, thank you. My question is, after having children, I can no longer go on roller coasters, swings, trampolines, anything like that because it makes me feel sick.
Not even a swing?
Nope.
Wow. From motion sickness?
Yep.
Wow.
Wow. And how was the pregnancy and the child?
All fine.
Do they sleep?
Yep. They're all 20, 22 and 24 now, so...
And
I still can't go on a roller coaster.
No roller coasters for 20 years.
And so how soon after your lovely child was born did it happen that you noticed that you couldn't do the roller coaster swing thing?
Pretty much straight away.
Wow, okay. Okay, so on one hand, you see these influencers and the pop stars, they go on TV, they've had a baby, and 4 weeks later they're out there in the gym, absolutely trim, saying, I did nothing except just sort of sleep and do yoga and have my patented Dr. Karl medical mixture, which you can buy for $40 a bottle, and it'll make everything. And then a little bit later, an article comes out by their personal trainer saying, they lied. I spent 8 hours a day with them for 4 months, and we did hard work every day, as opposed to, I just had Dr. Karl's medical mixture, right? So there are changes. I knew that. But this was a real surprise to me. About 6 months ago, I read an article which says that it takes up to 2 years to fully recover from a pregnancy. And I really had no idea that it was that much.
Yeah.
And in this particular case, it's to do with the balance centers. So with regard to the hormone fluctuations of themselves, they can interfere with your balance and your dizziness and your nausea. So you just sort of go into an elevator and suddenly it's a different environment. You think, I just feel dizzy for a second. There are changes in the inner ear which generally are minor, and I'm sorry to say in your case were possibly major, and I'm sorry that it still happens after 20 years.
I know a few people that it's happened to as well. They still can't go on roller coasters and that sort of thing. So
really? So
yeah.
So it's not just one. Okay, I've been really underplaying just how much an effect childbirth can have. And just as a little personal anecdote, one of my daughters is in the USA, and she got 2 weeks off after having the baby, not for baby time, but it's called disability time. Having a baby is a disease, right? And yet her husband, who works for a German bank, got 3 months off and didn't even carry the baby. Boo the patriarchy.
Boo the patriarchy. Hey, Bianca, thank you so much.
Bianca.
Hopefully you can enjoy some sort of like YouTube roller coasters.
Even that makes me sick.
Oh
my
Bianca,
gosh.
No! Well, Bianca, stay strong. I'm curious to know about the most sophisticated machine made by humans at the moment.
Mate, I'm in love with this thing. They cost $500 million.
Bargain.
Fill 2 shipping containers and weigh 150 tons. And they're used to make the template for the super sophisticated high-end chips. So if you spend a lot of money and buy a high-end computer, it'll have one of these chips in it. Now, I'm going to ask you a question without notice. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got a chip a bit bigger than a postage stamp.
Yep.
You remember, you've used, when was the last time you used a postage stamp?
I've seen them.
I've seen them too, yeah. Okay. What a world we live in.
I know of them.
Yeah, you know. Okay, so you've got a chip a bit bigger in your computer, a bit bigger than a postage stamp, and there's little wires in there joining the little components together. Here's a question without notice.
Yep.
In a high-end chip, how long would all the wires be? You know, in a chip that's a bit bigger than a postage stamp. The total length, you add up all the lengths together.
All the lengths together of all the wires?
Inside the chip to join the little transistors
all right,
together.
let's see the chip. Let's
About
see the chip's like an
postage
inch.
stamp, yeah, inch by inch or something.
20 inches?
100 kilometres.
What?
100 kilometres. And the way they do it is by having the wires are 1/10 smaller than a virus. What? And now, you know, when you paint with a paintbrush, the smallest line you can make is basically the thickness of the paintbrush.
Yeah.
So here they make those lines with ultraviolet light, which is firstly really powerful, and that's hard to make, and has a wavelength roughly smaller, 7 nanometers, less than 1/10 the size of a computer virus. And there's only one company in the world that can make it. Not America, not China, not Russia, but a little company in the Netherlands called in Eindhoven.
Wow.
And because the Americans like these machines, they're not allowed to sell it to the Chinese and a few other countries.
Mm-hmm.
And what they do is they start off with a vacuum. So you're thinking about this thing that weighs 150 tons, shipping containers, $500 million. They start off with a vacuum. You get a little tiny blob of tin. You know, tin is the stuff you add to copper to make brass. Okay, so you get a blob of tin. You heat up with a laser and turn it into a liquid. It's molten in a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
Then you hit it with another laser, a bunch of lasers, and you turn it into 50,000 individual drops of floating tin molten. They're little balls. And then with another laser, you hit them while they're molten, and individually you make them slabs, like a pancake.
Yeah.
And then you hit them with another laser, and they turn into a plasma with a temperature of 250,000 degrees, and then you've got this ultraviolet light of the right wavelength and the right power, and you've got to focus it with a mirror. And when I say mirror, this curved mirror, and the size of it is accurate to 1/1,000,000th of a metre and weighs several hundred kilograms. And you can buy one for $500 billion, for $500 million, and then start up your own chip making thing. Anyway, I just love this machine because it's the most sophisticated machine that we make. And surprisingly, the Americans can't make one. Only this little company in Eindhoven in the Netherlands.
Go Netherlands. You're listening to Science Hour with me, Jaimee, and Dr. Karl. Get your questions in 0439 757 555. Heather in Bendigo, you have a question for us, and I love it. Go for it, Heather.
Hi, doctors.
Hi, Dr. Heather.
I have maybe a two-part question. I was wondering if there's any science to women syncing their menstrual cycles, and if there is there a good theory to why this happens?
It's called the McClintock effect, named after Martha McClintock, who talked about it in 1971. Then it got more popular, and it then evolved into a woman who was famous or notorious in San Francisco, that when any other woman moved in with her, they would synchronise menstrual cycles with her, and then they did an experiment. They thought that, okay, you're some sort of driver, you're emitting some sort of chemical, maybe it's coming out of your armpits, we don't know. So they got her to wear a cotton pad in her armpits, and then every 2 days, every second day, she'd drop it into the laboratory and then get another cotton pad. And then they had a bunch of women who were single, not gay, not on a pill, and they would get the cotton pad, dip it in alcohol to get essence of armpit, and then put one drop.
Essence of armpit.
It's a new smell I'm coming up with now.
Essence of armpit, I love it.
That's my new fragrance coming out. And they would put a drop of this on the upper lip of the female volunteers, and the majority of them started synchronising menstrual cycles with a woman they'd never met. Now, that was, like a good experiment. When people tried to follow it up, they found mixed results. and sometimes they saw it and sometimes they did it. So we kind of think that it happens, and it's probably plausible but not definitely proven. And the mechanism may be that if women all have babies at the same time, then the whole tribe will be happy to help, and with the babies being delivered at the same time.
Safety in numbers.
Yeah, social cohesion, stop the guys from wandering, reduce competition among women. There's a whole bunch of hypotheses. So it's kind of softly proven, softly.
Interesting. Love that. Well, I'll talk to the girls that I play in a band with about safety in numbers, I guess.
There are apps for that.
And apps. All right, on Science Hour with Dr. Karl, we're talking to Andrew on the Central Coast. Andrew, what have you got for us?
Hi, doctors.
Hi, how you going?
Dr. Andrew, welcome.
I'm well. How are you guys?
Pretty good.
So well.
What do you got for us?
Today I had 2 immunisations. One was a COVID-19 vaccine and the other was the influenza, and I had them in different arms.
Ah.
Now, the COVID-19 injection wasn't painful at all and my arm's fine, but the influenza one was really painful as they did it. Must have been when he was pushing the plunger to put it in. And the arm is really sore, like I've got a dead arm.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Any idea what you think would be the difference between them and why it's doing that?
Hang on. You mean you've lost neurological function in the arm? You can't clench your fist or move your arm, your forearm up and down?
Oh, I can do all that. It just feels like someone's just sort of hit me in that area and it's, like it's bruised or something.
Okay, but you've got normal function, but sensation's a bit numb?
Yeah, everything's fine as far as the arm working itself and the hand and everything like that. There's no side effects, but it's just feels like, like I've just had someone just give me a little punch in the arm.
Well, firstly, good on you for getting the vaccine. So in a naive population, the fatality rate of COVID is 1%, of influenza 1/10 of 1%. So good on you. I've had my influenza. I will get my COVID shortly. Secondly, vaccines have got different ingredients, including a weird thing called an adjuvant, ADJUVANT. And they're chemicals that help the vaccine work better, and we don't fully understand how they work, but we know that they do. And there could be secondly, there's variations of vaccine, but thirdly, they might have accidentally run into a nerve.
Oh.
And that could be causing the numbness. I don't know. If it doesn't get better in the next day, ring back to the doctor's surgery and ask for advice and have a phone consult.
Okay.
So it's a little bit more about how it was delivered rather than what's in it.
Possibly. So say again there?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that was me.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that maybe one's more viscous than the other, so it's thicker.
Could be.
So when it goes in?
Yep. Definitely, there are vaccines that got different compositions and that could be part of it, or it could be hitting the nerve. I don't know.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And thank you,
Andrew.
everyone, for joining us today on Science Hour with me, Jaimee Taylor-Nielsen, and Dr. Karl. Dr. Karl, thank you so much for hanging out for the last couple of weeks here with me.
Thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
And there you have it. Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Science with Dr. Karl. We'll be back next week. In the meantime, get more science on your podcast feed. You can check us out wherever you get your podcasts, the Triple J app, and we're also on YouTube at youtube.com/Triple J. I'm Jaimee Taylor-Nielsen. This episode was produced by Ella Carter, and Lucy Smith will be back on deck next week.
Dave Marchese here from the Triple J Hack team. Hey, if you love Dr. Karl's podcast like I do, you might enjoy the Hack podcast as well. Each day we bring you the news that matters to you, from the latest science on climate change to what's happening in politics and news around the world. The Hack podcast. It's your daily fix of the news you need to know. Get it wherever you're listening now.